Hey everybody, Dana Stovern here with the Magic of Somatic Money, back for the third installment out of 3 for the Sacred Feminine, getting ready for the class that I have coming up here pretty soon. Details are in the text. And we reconvene here where I left off on the last video about how I had come back from a certain shop and I had my medium-sized Jesus, and I was really in a quandary as to why I had a biblical figure in my house and all the cross sections between spirituality and religion. And I had thought I had just completed a spiritual task for my own healing, growth, and development that I had been requested to do from the spiritual realm. And I got that task done, and as I had said in the last video, I brought my medium-sized Jesus home, set him in the middle of my kitchen counter, and that was a little bit strange, and thought, okay, mission accomplished. Don't have to worry about this anymore. And that was not the case, because within 24 hours of that medium-sized Jesus being planted in the center of my table, I could feel the energies growing in the house. And not just a little bit, like a lot. It felt like at some points like the house was going to tip, because there was so much energy and so many light beings from spirit world who were all packed into my living space. Like at one point I felt like I was just walking through like viscous light. So, and I was somewhat aware of this, but not. It was a little bit of an otherworldly experience. But by the end of, I can't even remember now whether it's 24 hours out or 48 hours out. At the end of the day, I began to realize, as we're coming into afternoon, that I need to do ceremony. I need to do sacred ceremony. Who knew? And what came to me was, I need to go do sacred ceremony, take a dip in the bathtub. So I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. Let's go take a bath. This was not any regular bath. This was what gradually I began to understand was a baptism for me. And the deal is that I'm used to doing ceremony and having big initiations happen in my life. Like I've had that happen multiple times, but this was powerfully different. And so I was guided to draw the bath. Okay, I was guided to put my sea salt in, a little bit of aromatherapy, light some candles, bring some crystals in, bring the medium-sized Jesus in. That was a riot. And so it's convening all of these spiritual items that had energy, and I could feel the energies in the house, and the guidance was very specific. And I was having this feeling of like, this is metaphysical, but this is also biblical. So this was like, it's what I came to know, what I came to call my pagan baptism for it was my pagan baptism for my sacred feminine is what it turned out to be. I was getting this entire space set up, and I could so viscerally feel my powerful metaphysical energies and implements, and I could also powerfully feel these biblical connections, because my medium-sized Jesus is there, and I have a spiritual shaman relationship with Jesus, and that was all mixing into this bath, which was a little bit much for me. But I went ahead and followed the steps and got into my bath, this sacred ceremony. And for all intents and purposes of this telling, I can tell you some of the minimal things that happened in that space. And probably one of the primary things is my baptism was about clearing the past, setting space for the present, and my compass setting for the future. So this was no baptism at a church. This was a metaphysical baptism with all kinds of energies and intentions and tools and skills plugged into that space. This is water baptism, water baptism being more religious, but then metaphysical, spiritual, all plugged in together. Blew my mind because we're so used to separating the two, right? And this was like, no, it's like what I talked about in that story, realizing spiritual people have been robbed of certain things from the Christ consciousness community, and the Christ consciousness community has been robbed of the bandwidth of the metaphysical tools. And so that baptism for myself, I got to see more of the full range of the spectrum, all of it put together so much more beautifully and better, healed. And the power that came through this thing, it was incredible. So, and there is one other piece of this equation that I can reveal that happened in this baptism, and it is essential to the rest of the story, and it's essential for you to know as far as the trajectory that my work has now taken me. And so during the middle of this baptism, I began to see two different triangles. And one triangle was the masculine, and it was Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So, and we're very used to hearing that from the Christian religious sect, is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And it showed up in this baptismal place for me as a triangle and represented as sacred masculine. But then it didn't stop there. Now in religious circles, that's it. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. In the baptism, it continued, and I was showed the power triangle of the feminine of mother, daughter, goddess. So mother, daughter, or what you might call divine Sophia, or mother, daughter, Isis, or mother, daughter, feminine Holy Spirit. And these two things kept repeating and repeating and repeating to me, and eventually intertwined and turned into the Merkaba, because the Merkaba is a right side up equilateral triangle and an upside down equilateral triangle, and when they're interfaced, it's a star, right? And so I was shown the Merkaba as masculine, feminine, and there were a lot of other things that went with that, but this was impressed upon me over and over and over. So needless to say, it was one of the more powerful spiritual experiences that I have, and really rung my bell because of all the quote-unquote rules I was breaking between the spiritual community and the Christian community. If you don't mix this stuff together, like each communities have a taboo against it, and I got shown to do that. Mix it together. There's something going on that is about connecting some of the best of both communities that gives us a power in a way that we can't even imagine. So that all done and said, got out of the bathtub. Bell was rung pretty good. And let's just say it took me a while to begin to recover from this. And as I was recovering and processing and integrating, it took me a couple of days. As I'm doing that, I began to feel a sense of my own growing sexuality. We'll just put it that way. I began to feel some energies begin to go on inside of my body that I was most used to feeling when I was in the bedroom in partnership with someone. But here I am alone, nobody's interacting in my space, I'm not tracking anybody down, and yet I finished this feminine pagan baptism, and I'm beginning to feel some really good sex coming on. And it made no sense to me. So, two pivotal points, I should say peak points, pun intended, two peak points of how this all culminated is, in the middle of all this, I'm beginning to realize there are no groceries in my house. Like, I need to go grocery shopping to get food so me and the dogs can eat. First things first, right? So I'm in the middle of beginning to feel this sexual wave just happening and growing inside of me, and I gotta go to the grocery store. So I am literally pushing my cart around in Fred Meyer's, feeling like I'm gonna have an orgasm, like in the middle of the spaghetti aisle. I mean, like this is the insanity of what happened. So I got through that shop and I got home, and let's just say I relieved myself. And that was like at the front end of the week. And I thought this was all going to begin to calm down. But no, here's the second part of this. Here's the second part of this that just, tipped the scales and started the whole initiation that lasted 6 weeks. So I get back from that grocery shop, take care of business to vibrate off the excess sex coming through my body. And by the end of it wasn't that evening, and I can't remember, it must have been the next evening. It was the end of the day. I was taking a break, dinner had happened, taking care of the dogs, dinner had happened. I was sitting out on the patio, just enjoying an evening, and still there's just this rumbling happening through my body, and I'm doing the best, to just shut it down. Just shut it down. I don't need to go here. It just didn't make any sense to me. And the moment I had the conscious thought of, I need to shut this down, I'm literally sitting in a lawn chair, and I swear to God, I felt and saw energy swoop in from the sky, land at my vagina, go straight up my cervix, fill my womb, shoot up to my heart, explode out the top of my head, and my entire body erupted in a full body orgasm. So that was the first of multiple, what I would call universal spontaneous orgasms that I experienced over the course of many weeks. And I walked through my first sacred feminine initiation, and I was shown all kinds of technology connecting women's second chakras with voice, with heart, with Eye of Horus, the mainframe in the brain, all through sexuality, sacred feminine. And so what had been set in those baptismal waters with Father, Son, Holy Spirit in the triangle, and Mother, Daughter, Goddess interfaced, that was basically spirit world's insignia to me, that they were going to begin to walk me through sacred sexuality of the second chakra, sacred sexuality of the feminine, and all of this connecting into money relationship, because second chakra is the home of money relationship. So that entire initiation was about breaking through and breaking rules with the spirituality and religious tones. I was shown all kinds of rules to break there, all kinds of taboo to break there. I was shown how sacred feminine, sacred masculine is all wrapped up in this biblical spiritual stuff that then is all pours over and spills over into our finance, our finances, our money relationship. This is all interconnected. And I was shown all of this so explosively through my entire body that I'm now walking around with this imprint of seeing how much our worlds are separated, compartmentalized, and it really inhibits us from having full functionality with, our faith belief system and our sexuality systems and beliefs and our financial systems and beliefs. All of these are interconnected, and the compartmentalization has been going on for centuries. We don't even question it. But what I was shown through this initiation is every single topic area, breaking taboo, beginning to do interconnections, totally opens up our faith lives, our sacred sexual lives, and our sacred financial lives. So I think that's all I want to share at this point. I'm sure you can see I have so much more to share. This is all connected into the kickoff that I'm doing with my first Sacred Feminine mini workshop that's coming up here soon. Go check it out on my web page. I've got it highlighted in the class section. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to seeing you in my next episode.